Hey everyone, this is Mike with Sports Templates, and today I'm going to take this Photoshop mockup and turn it into this USA hockey uniform. We just had some USA hockey uniforms announced recently for the upcoming Winter Olympics, so we thought this would be a good way to kind of show off this template and do kind of a throwback retro USA hockey design, just to show you how to use this awesome template. And so we're going to attempt to recreate this image that I created before. We'll get as close as we can. Maybe we'll make some changes along the way, but let's get started. So when you open up the template, you'll see this layout here, and all of the default settings, all of the layers are grouped over here for the different parts of the template. I like to start with the front of the jersey. That's the top group. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to zoom in just so we can see some more detail, using Control or Command and the plus key to zoom in. And then I'm holding the space bar to turn my cursor into this little hand so I can grab and kind of move my canvas around without having to do the sliders or the scroll wheel. I can be a little bit more precise. I'll go ahead and zoom in just a little bit more. And Photoshop's kind of doing its thing. Now, I have a pre-made library up here for USA Hockey with any colors I might need, some design elements that I might want to use. You can drop logos and things like that into here if you're not creating them, from scratch or anything like that. So we'll be using some of those. I'm going to go ahead and open up this jersey front layer. First thing I want to show you is there are some extra collars included with this template. So if you wanted a collar other than this one for your design, I'm going to stick with this one because I like the way it looks, and we kind of end up with a little Captain America looking situation. But just if you wanted to change the collar, you can turn on this extra collars layer. If you open it up, there's three different types. You've got this one with the laces kind of inside. You've got this other one with three laces going across as opposed to the X. And then the third one where the laces come out and they would be tied. And you can change all the colors and everything on those. Add designs. We're going to go ahead and stick with the standard collar that comes with the jersey, if you remember the design that we're going for there. So we start working our way down through this layer group. I'm going to turn that off for now. Starting with our embossed logo. So that's whatever logo is on the front of the jersey that it looks like it's sort of tackle twill. It's got some emboss to it, so it looks 3D. It has some depth. There's some shadows underneath it we can see here. So we're going to start with that for this jersey. If we remember from our reference image, we've got a nice USA. It's pretty big, pretty high up, and the Captain C is not there. So I'm going to go ahead and go into that embossed logo graphics folder, and I'm going to scroll down to the smart object. All these layers are layers that adjust the lighting and shadows. So I'm going to go down to the smart object layer, which is color coded in purple, and I'm going to double click that, and I'm going to go ahead and turn off the Captain C. Don't need that for this design. And I want to drop in my USA logo that I have. And it actually dropped into the Captain folder. I'm going to move it up here so it becomes visible. And I'm going to turn off the other logo. And then I'm just going to move this one pretty high up. I think if we remember from the reference, it's pretty high up. Now, I put it where I wanted to, and I hit Control S or Command S on a Mac to save it. And that will update the smart object. So let's look and see, compared to our reference image, how we did on placement. So I think it's a little bit higher on the reference image. I'm going to move it up just a little bit more. Doesn't have to be exact, but I want to get close. That's pretty close, so I'm happy with that. So I'll go ahead and close that layer out, and then we'll continue on. So the effects folder that you'll see here is really what gives the template its depth and its texture to make it look realistic. So if we turn that off, you see what we end up with is just a flat base of colors and shapes. There's no realism to it. So the effects is really what gives this its 3D depth. We want to get into the editable parts folder. Sorry, we're already in the editable parts folder. We're going to go down a little bit further and work on the different shapes and sections of the jersey. So I'm going to start with the collar. That's up at the top. So I'm going to set the color to this outer trim of the collar. I'm going to set it to that dark blue. And then this smart object does this design inside here. And if we remember from our reference image, what we have is 2 red stripes and 1 white stripe. Or you can think of it as one solid red color with a white stripe over the top of it. And so I'm going to go in there, and I just want to I'm going to get my shape tool. My color's already set to the white that I need, and I'm going to drag out a rectangle here. That's probably a little bigger than I need, so I'm going to shrink it down a little bit and line it up just right. Doesn't really matter if it goes off the canvas, but we're going to line it up anyway. Turn off those shape layers, and I'm going to hit Control-Command-S to save. Don't want to close it just in case I need to make any adjustments. And that actually looks pretty good. I'm pretty happy with that. Now there's 2 ways to get the red behind it. If we go to collar color and just set it to red, it sets the entire collar color to red. Now maybe that's not what you want, right? I've got these other collar areas where maybe I don't want them to be red if I'm doing a different design. So you can also, if you wanted to, just make the background color red here, and that will, sorry, errant click, that will effectively turn that entire section the way that you want it. If I turn off the collar color, well, these are clipped onto it, but if I make the collar color different underneath, right, maybe make it blue, turn off that back design. Now you can see the collar is blue, but because I put a red background here, I'm still getting red. So there's kind of multiple ways to approach these things. Now I'm going to leave this layer open because I may want to borrow from it in a moment. So let's do the sides of our collar. Okay, there's one smart object for each side. Right, this one controls what really would, I guess, be the right side of the jersey, but we're looking at our left. So let's open that one up, and I'm going to go ahead and take this shape, and there's a couple ways we can duplicate this shape in the other layer. I can right click on it, I can duplicate layer, I can choose that layer, and now it's there, and then I can resize it and reposition it as needed. But the other way we can do it, and I might use both of these methods during this tutorial, if we take our other tab and we just kind of drag it out, and doesn't really matter what shape it is, but if you want to see more, you can move things around. If we drag it out and we make sure we're selected on it, I just double clicked it and made it full screen. If we choose that layer, hold down Shift and drag it into this layer back here, when we drop it, it will place it in the, kind of where we want it. Now we may need to, like I said, resize and reposition this one because this is a completely different area of the template, and so it may not line up. Yeah, see, that's a bit high. Move that down again and kind of see how that works. And now that's a bit low, so let's find that happy middle area. Maybe it's there. Yeah, I think it's still maybe a little bit high. Just gonna nudge it down a little bit with my keyboard. Okay, that looks pretty good. Now let's make our collar red so we can kind of see where we're at. That looks good. And I'm going to replicate that on the other side. So I'm going to open up that smart object. I'm going to grab my shape and drag it in. And then turn off the other layers, Control-Command-S, for save. And there we are. Our collar is built. It's coming along. Let's compare it to the reference. It's pretty good. I think the white is a little thick compared to the reference, but I'm okay with it for this tutorial. Okay. And now we want to do this section. So that's what we call the collar label. We can set the color to the same blue, and you won't see it because the smart object is turned on above it. But we need to get a white star in here. And I don't have one. I didn't save one in my library over here. I have a logo that has a star in it, and I could pull that in and sort of mask everything out if I want to use that star, or we can just make a star. So if we go to our polygon tool and we just hold shift and drag out a shape. It's going to drag out a pentagon, and that's okay. We're going to reposition it kind of where we want it, right in the middle. And if we go over here, right, it automatically took me to the Properties tab because I did a shape. So if you're not there, click on your shape layer, go to the Properties tab, and you can see down here there's this little polygon star kind of, it's not really a slider, but if I hover the cursor over it, I can click on it and drag left or right to set the star ratio. But what I found is if you just change it to 50% and hit enter, it makes what I consider a perfect star. So we'll go ahead and do that. We'll turn off those other layers, Control or Command S to save. And there we have it. We have a star. I'm going to do Control H to hide my transform tool. We have a star there. We want it. So we got this nice kind of Captain America look building. We can go ahead and close these out. We don't need those anymore. And let's start just building the rest of our jersey. We've got to get the color set. We've got to get some stripes and numbers on the sleeves, some stripes on the torso, and we're going to be good to go. So we'll kind of continue to move down here. I don't need the collar anymore. Let's get into the sleeves. So if we want to set the colors to everything to blue, just to save some time, we can choose the two sleeve layers. If I click on one and then I hold Control and click on the other, it'll choose just those two layers that I clicked on. Set the color to blue. If we turn the design layers off, we can see they're blue now. So, and again, there's multiple ways you can kind of do this. You don't have to do it this way, but it's just one way I like to do it. I like all my base colors to be set. That way, in case there's any areas where maybe the design doesn't cover everything, you'll get that base color coming up from underneath. Okay, so we need to get some stripes on here. I'm gonna go back to my shape tool, rectangle tool, and let's just jump back out real quick. I can't remember if they're white with red in the middle or, yeah, white with red in the middle, kind of white stripe kind of going right across the bend of the elbow. So let's draw out a white shape, and it's probably way bigger than I want, so we'll do that. And I'm gonna move this down here. Why did I do that? The levels layers allow you to control the lighting, and so it's not really changing anything much now. A little bit you can see, but if you wanted to, you can go in and you can kind of move these around to change the lighting of whatever you're working on. I don't want to make any of those changes now, but now the easiest way that I like to sort of create multiple shapes with different colors. I've got the white one. I'm going to click on it, hit Control or Command J to duplicate it, change it to red by clicking on the red color in my library. And then to resize it, I'm going to hold the Alt key and I'm going to click that top little selector there, and just kind of, when you hold the Alt key, it brings it in from both sides. So I'm going to do that and try to get it to about 1/3. And this is probably not placed correctly at all, but I'm just gonna do a quick Control Command S and see where I'm at. So it's pretty close. I just need to move it down a little bit to get that white top stripe right on the bend of that elbow. So one way to do that, and it might help to keep your background color on just so you can kind of see a little better. I'm gonna hold Shift and select both of those layers, make sure I'm on my transform tool, and I'm going to just move this down a little bit. Maybe like right there, and see where we come out. That's pretty good. I still want to bring it down just a little bit, so I'll just nudge the whole thing down, maybe there. Okay, so that's pretty good compared to our reference image. I think it's a little bigger overall than maybe I want it to be. So again, I've got them both selected. I'm gonna hold the Alt key and just kind of scrunch it in a little bit, and then Control Command S. Okay, that's looking pretty good, I think. That's really close. So I'm pretty happy with that, with where we're at. Now, I want to do the exact same thing on the other sleeve, right? So let's go to this sleeve, open it up, and then we can do that little trick where we just take our shapes, hold down Shift, drag them over, drop them, turn those off, and I'm done with this for now. We need to add numbers, but another way to close this, I haven't saved it yet, so if I right click, it's going to ask me if I want to save. I can hit yes, and you can see it saved it. But we do need to add our numbers though. And we're going to do, I'm going to go back into those. We're going to do number 22 for the 22 Winter Olympics that are coming up. And we can see here we've got red block numbers with white stroke or outline around them. Okay, so there's a couple ways we can achieve that. I'm going to open my text tool. I've actually got this set already to a block number font that I like that looks kind of good for sports called Octon College. It's available on Adobe fonts, so it's a font you can use for free. Let's go ahead and just draw out a text box real quick and type out a 22 so we can see a little better. I'm going to turn the background color on. I'm going to match it to our sleeve color. And we just need to work on the sizing of this 22 and the placement. One thing I like to do once I have my text typed out, if I know I'm not going to need to edit the text at all, I like to convert it to a vector shape. So I like to right click on it, convert it to shape, and then I can resize it. I don't have my lock proportions on, so I can either turn that on or I can just hold the shift key and change the size. If I let go of the shift key, then the proportions don't change together. It just changes whatever direction you're moving. So let's just land on a size. Let's call that good. I need to get a white outline on it. There's the best way to do that with vector shapes. And I like this because you get sharp corners on the stroke as opposed to rounded corners if you put a stroke on text. Once you have it set, if you go over here to the path selection tool and you go here to the stroke, you can choose your color. So we're going to do our white color we've been using. And if you go to this drop down, you can choose to align it to the outside. So this would be the middle, this would be inside, and this will align the stroke or the outline to the outside. And then we just need to tell it how big to make it. I'm going to just start with 12 pixels and hit enter and see what happens. That looks a little heavy for me. So let's try 8. Okay, that looks better compared to what we have. So now, where do we put this, right? To get it kind of lined up the way that we want. Well, let's just drop it and see where it is. Okay, so that looks pretty good. You can see the first two, and then the second two is kind of around the back. But if we think about the way this is folded, right? This is kind of the center line of the sleeve. So really, the second two should be here, and the other two would be like wrapped around the other side and kind of folded under. So let's just move this. Let's just move this over, maybe like that, and see what it looks like. That's pretty good. I might move it over just a little bit further, just maybe nudge it over, maybe like that. Okay, now that looks a little awkward because we can only see part of it. Really, we probably wouldn't be able to see any of it, so let's just kind of do that. And there we've got a 2. Let's look at our reference image and see how it looks. Oh, it's quite a bit bigger on the reference image, so we can make it a little bit bigger. So I'm going to grab it, I'm going to hold shift and just kind of drag to make things a little bit bigger. Maybe move it over again. Control Command S. Okay, so that's size-wise still about the same size. Still needs to probably come in a little bit. And you can see on the reference image, I used regular text, so you can see those rounded corners. I'll zoom in a little bit for you. I used regular text, and that's why the corners are a bit rounded on the outline. And if you like that look, that's okay. But with the shape, doing it with the shape, it's making it sharp corners, which I prefer. And you can see on the reference image, it's actually, I think the stroke is actually a little heavier. But that's okay too. This one, well, maybe we can make it a little heavier. This one is pretty close. Let's make it like a 10. Let's see where we come out. Okay, so maybe we're just gonna move it just a little bit more, a little further in, maybe down just a little. And I think we're gonna call it good. All right, so let's zoom out a little bit. All right, so that looks pretty good. Now we just need to get it on the other sleeve. So let's open up that. and just right click, duplicate layer. Right, there's a couple different ways you can do it. I don't care if this one is, when you do it that way, it places it in the same place, which is good. I don't care if it does though, because I need to move this anyway. So I'm gonna, now we want to keep it aligned. So if I just start dragging it, kind of could go anywhere. And Photoshop tells you, if you see when I'm dragging it, tells you how far you've moved it. So you can try to keep it like without moving it, you know, vertically. But that can get a little tricky sometimes, especially if you have, you know, guides on and it's trying to snap to things. So if you want to just move it one direction and not have it move, you know, the other way, if I hold the Shift key and I start dragging it, it makes it easy to drag it horizontally without it moving up or down. And then I can kind of place it, you know, wherever I want to. Let's say maybe there. Control Command S. And that's really close to where I want it. It's kind of creeping into that fold, which is pretty cool. I might move it over just a little bit that way. And there we go. That's pretty good compared to what we have. So now this would be the first two on the back side of the sleeve, and then the second two would be kind of rolled under the fold. So that's really good. So let's go ahead and I'm going to close one of those. I'm going to leave one open because we're gonna steal from it. And let's get our torso done. So we've got our, whenever you see these grid lines, you know that you've got a smart object on that will allow you to place a design. Really, we're just going for solid blue on the jersey with some stripes. So I'm going to turn off all of those design smart objects, all the purple layers for now. Eventually we'll need that one, but I'm going to change the color to blue on everything. So I'm going to just hit Control and select all those layers that I want, and I'm going to turn them blue. And then I'll go back to this design layer, and I'm going to take my striping and duplicate it onto that layer. And now I don't need my sleeve layer anymore. Now, obviously it's not wide enough, right? So I'm just going to stretch it out. And then I feel like this is probably too high. So I'm going to move everything down and just kind of see where we come out. Maybe more. Control or Command S. Okay, let's see where we are compared to our reference. So it's just a little bit higher on the reference image. So I'm just using the up arrow on my keypad to move things around. And that looks pretty good. I'm happy with that. So the front of the jersey is done. Let's move on to the back, and I'm not going to put the stripes on the back. I'm going to pretend this jersey just has the stripes on the front and they don't wrap all the way around. They would probably look a little bit awkward with, you know, number placement depending on how things were, but you know, we'll see. So I think since we're already up here in our front of our jersey area, I'm going to go and open up one of my sleeve design layers, and then I'm going to go to the jersey back and get into the editable parts, and I'm going to open one of my sleeve design layers there, and I'm going to do that so that I can move these things over. All right, so let's just drop them in. And we'll just center that stripe again. Put these down here. I don't like how that did that. Usually it just puts them right where they need to be, but it didn't. So let's do it this way. We'll duplicate them onto the other sleeve design layer, and now they're in the same spot. Hit Control or Command S and see where we came out. Okay, so this is the back of the jersey. So if we're facing it, either way, it's the right sleeve, right? So kind of the same situation as before. One number on one side of the fold, one number on the other. So I think this looks good. So let's open up our other sleeve design layer. And I'm actually going to get the one the other one from the front of the jersey too. And we'll just duplicate these layers over. Control Command S. And there we go. The back of our jersey is coming together. Now let's make our sleeves blue. So if you get, there's a lot going on here, right, with the layers. There's a lot of layers and groups and things. If you get a little bit lost, it helps to kind of collapse layers that you're not using anymore, or collapse groups that you're not using anymore. So I'm done with the front now. I don't need to borrow anything from it anymore, at least not that I can think of right now. So I'm going to close that just to help stay a little bit organized. And let's just make our sleeves blue. Okay, move this over now, get that into view. And while we're at it, we can make everything else blue. You won't necessarily see this, right, because it's underneath things that are turned on, but it's kind of an easy way to get everything where you need it to be. Collar's going to be red. This is going to be blue. Okay, and let's just go in and do this stuff again. So let's make we can make our background color red. Make this, I guess I left the shape in here from before. So, oh no, this was part of the native template. We'll leave this like that and see how it looks. Okay, that's good. We've got a red with a white stripe. I think the white is probably a little bit thicker on the other, so let's just make this a little bit thicker. There we go. Got a red stripe going across the back, wraps around the collar there. And let's see, we don't need any design on our shoulders, so we've got our shoulder smart objects. We can turn those off. And then this design, right, this is our main design on the torso. We don't need anything there either. Let's turn that blue. I didn't do that earlier. And then this logo design, right, if we look at our reference image, we've got that USA logo that you see over here kind of tucked in there. So let's turn that on. We'll make our background color the blue, so it'll make it easier for us to see what we're doing. And we'll just drop this in. And it looks strange, right? Because it's a blue shape and the background is blue. So if we just choose our white color, go to our layer effects, add a stroke, make it that white color. It's set to outside already, but it's way too thick, so let's just back it down. I think 6 is probably fine. Control or Command S to save. And so you can see it's too big, right? So let's actually center it. And let's hold Shift and Alt, and it'll just shrink everything to the center. Control Command S again. That's a little high up, I think, so let's move it down. Maybe there. That looks better. Right, so let's compare it to our reference. Pretty close. I think the one on the reference is a little bit smaller, but I'm okay with this. This looks pretty good. All right, so let's work on our player name and number. So we need to go to the Emboss Logo Graphics layer. All these layers here, again, if I said this already, I just want to say it again. These are the lighting and shadows. They control the lighting and shadows on whatever group or section you're in. So you can toggle those on and off or do different things to make adjustments if you need to, but hopefully it's set really well from the beginning. Let's turn our background color on to blue. And we're going to change these. So when you see these little yellow warning signs here, that means that whatever font is being used by the template is not, you don't have it, right, on your computer. So that's okay, because we want to use a different font anyway. I'm going to change this to that same Octon College font that we were using. A couple ways to do that. You could double click it and it'll ask you if you want to replace the font. You're going to have to. And then you can come up here and sort of manage your font that way. Or if you go to Window and you do, oh, I'm not going to remember which one it is. I thought it was Character. What is it? Yeah, Character. You'll get this little guy up here. And so if you're on your font layer, you can start making changes. And that font that I like is called Octon College. Okay. And it's white already. We do want to put a red stroke on it. And if you remember, I like to get those sharp corners. So I'm going to convert this to a shape. And then I'm going to go up here. I'm going to choose my red color. I'm going to choose outside, and I'm going to set a stroke on it, and we'll just say maybe 6 pixels. See how that looks. That looks pretty good. And then same thing for the number. Let's change it to that Octon College. Let's change it to number 22. Okay. This one already has a stroke on it. I'm going to just get rid of that for now, drag that to the delete, and I'm going to convert this to a shape. And I'm going to do the same thing with my stroke. And for this, let's just see what 12 looks like. It's pretty good. So I think we'll hit Control Command S and kind of see where we're at. Okay, maybe we want to bring that up a little bit, right? I don't remember where it is on our reference image, but yeah, I see a little bit higher. Oh, and you know what? We changed it to America. That's right. So let's do that. So, oh no, I already converted my text to a shape. So you can't edit it anymore at that point, but that's okay. We can just make another one. You can size this up while you're in text mode or not. Right, it doesn't matter because we're going to convert it to a shape and then we can change the size, but let's get America there. Okay, turn the background layer back on. Let's convert this to a shape. Let's get our red behind it. Actually, I think we said 6 here. Oh, that's too small. Let's do 10. Okay, and let's move this up. We don't need player anymore, so let's get rid of that. And then these just maybe move up a little bit. Photoshop is making it bounce for some reason. Control Command S. And there we go. America's probably a little big. Let's see. Yeah, America's a little big as compared to everything else. Pretty close. Numbers are spaced out a little bit more on ours, and we can address that if we want to. Let's make America just a little bit smaller. Hold Shift and Alt and kind of drag it in. And then if we want to make the number a little bit smaller, we can drag the shape. If I hold Shift and I click on it, it'll select that shape, and then I can kind of nudge it in, and I do the same thing on the other one. Oh, sorry, I selected the whole thing. I just want the one shape. So actually, don't hold Shift, just click right on it, kind of nudge it in. Be one more. I think that's fine. Control Command S, and there we have it. That's pretty close. Yeah, I'm okay with that. I think the stroke is a little thicker on the letters and the number on the reference that I did before, but I kind of like this a little bit better. Okay, and you can see all kinds of things change depending on how you set up your spacing, what sizes you use for your shapes, and how you put the strokes on and things like that. It kind of changes the whole look and feel of everything. But I like this one. This looks good. So the back of the jersey is done. Okay, so let's see where we want to go to next. Why don't we do the helmet? Actually, no, let's do whatever's next. Shorts. Shorts are next here. let's open up our shorts layers. Let's go to editable parts, and real easy thing to do is just take all the shapes and make them, you know, your blue color, if that's what you want to use. If we look at our reference image, we do have everything blue and then some striping on the sides, white stripes with red in the middle. We don't need this anymore. Don't need this anymore. Don't need this anymore. So looking at our shorts layer, we don't need to put a design on our belt or in sort of the middle area there. So we don't really need any of those. We just need them to be blue. And then we have the legs separated out. So let's make the legs blue and blue. So now everything is blue. And then let's go back to our leg design layers and get some stripes on there. So shape tool, drag out a rectangle. It's already set to white. Let's click on it, hold Control and press J to duplicate it. Make that one red. And let's bring our red in a bit, maybe to there. Turn these off. I think I might have done this opposite, right? It's white with red in the middle. So let's drag our red here. I think, don't hold me to that. So we've got some striping there. We need to move it around, but let's look at the reference. Okay, so it's just quite a bit further to the outside, right, on the original, which looks much better. So let's grab those, just grab here. I'm not holding Shift or Alt or anything because I just want them to shrink a little bit. Okay, and that looks much better. It's actually pretty close. We make them just a little bit smaller. Control S. Okay, and I'm happy with that. So let's open the other leg. Let's duplicate those layers into that. And we need to move them to the other side. And also we need to reverse them, right? So, because we need white to be on the inside. So there's a couple ways to go about that. The easiest way for me is I've got them both selected already. If I go to Edit, Transform Path, Flip Horizontal, it'll flip them around, and then I can just drag them over. And if you hold Shift, it will keep them vertically aligned. Turn those off, Control S, and now we have our stripes done on our shorts. So that's pretty easy. It's a good looking uniform. All right, let's see what's next in our layer group. Socks. Okay, so we open up the socks. We've got editable parts, right? And we can put designs on them. But for this pretty traditional look, we're not really gonna need any designs. We're just gonna work off the colors. Let's just turn them, well, let's look at our reference image and see what we're dealing with. Okay, so they're mostly white with some red and blue striping on them. So this one's showing you kind of the side view of the sock, and this one is showing you the front view of the sock, so you can get an idea of what it would look like from either side. So this one looks like red wraps around the back, kind of some blue and red striping on the front. So let's get our shapes that way. So left sock, the top part is red, I think. Yep, red. That part there is blue. That little part there has some white tucked in. And then the main part of the sock is white. And then the right sock has more sections because it's showing you kind of more parts and you can get a little bit more creative with it. But let's just match what we have there on the left sock. Red, red. So you can see those two parts can be changed independently of each other. And then the bottom is broken into two sides if you maybe wanted to make them different. And then there's one more for this tiny little part of the sock that's showing from the back. So we'll just make that white as well. And now our sock's done. Okay, so let's go ahead and close out our sock layer. Let's zoom in and see how those look. Got a different texture. The shorts too, actually. We didn't really zoom in on the shorts. So just holding Control, Command, and the plus key on my keyboard. and then holding spacebar to drag around so we can see the shorts. Look at all this texture. You got the nice soft texture on the inside of the shorts. Texture of the belt with the plastic clip. Kind of got that almost vinyl-y texture that these shorts tend to have. And then the socks, a nice, almost a nylon fabric sheen going on, right? You can see all the seams and stitching areas, so it's very detailed. Okay, next is going to be the skate. Okay, so this guy here. So let's get into the skate layers. So it starts with the label. So that's here. We've got the Bauer label on there. And let's see if we want to change that, right? Let's make the background color blue. And let's change the label. Let's drop our USA in there. Okay. And we'll just center it. And maybe make it just a little bit bigger. Okay. Turn off Bauer. And let's say our background's blue. Maybe we want to add some stars, right? I think that's what we have on our reference image. So let's drag out the shape. Let's make it white. And let's go here and change it to 50%. And now we've got, you know, like a perfect star. Let's position it so it's gonna line it up pretty good. Let's see how far out we want to go. Sure, 32 pixels. Now, I don't want to draw another star. I can duplicate this one in a number of ways. One really easy way is to, if you're on your transform tool and you have it selected, hold the Alt key, and you'll see your cursor kind of turns into a double pointer there. So you're duplicating the shape. So now if I drag it, right, I've got another one. And at this point I can just drop it and I can let go if I want to. One thing that's nice, it kind of helps you to align it. You can see the 3 lines telling me that I'm aligned. If I hold shift and drag it over, it'll stay vertically aligned. And then it's telling me now that I'm 32 pixels away from the edge on both sides. So it's helping me with spacing and everything. So Control S and see how that looks. So now we've got, let's zoom in on our skate that we're working on. Now we've got a really cool USA label on our skate. Okay, so let's start changing the colors. So if we look at our reference, white with a lot of blue and red trim, right? We may take a minute to match this exactly, so let's just do our best. So editable parts of the skate are down here. We've got the laces and the tongue. We'll leave the laces white. We'll leave the eyelet rings the color that they are. I've got a color in here that I call metal. Let's see how that looks. It doesn't really change much. It might have been the color it was already set to. This is, if we look at it, this is the protective tongue color. So this part here. So if we want to change that, let's change that to red. And let's look at this part here. So this is changing the tongue stitching color. So you can't see that very well, but it's kind of a light blue. We'll make it our dark blue. And then we don't need a design on the tongue. We'll just make the tongue blue. The front of the tongue, this is the back of the tongue. We'll make that blue, the padded part. And then we get into the main body of the skate. I don't remember what color this was in our reference image. I don't think it was blue though. Oh, it was blue, okay. So we're doing pretty well so far. A lot of blue, a little bit of white and red in there. Say this was white. Say this is red. Don't need the design there. So you can literally change every piece of this skate. It's just amazing how much detail there is on this thing that you can change. This is this bottom piece here. We'll say that's blue. This is the lace bar area. We'll also say that's blue. This part is another stitching color. Just call that blue for now. So the main part of the skate, we're gonna make white. The toe, I think the toe was red. So this part I think needs to be changed to blue. Yeah, that looks like it. Let's see. Yeah. So we just need to do the blade part and the blade holder. So if we get down into the blade area, this is the screws. Just set them to our metal color. We have a design. I want to keep the logos, but just turn off the background. Control Command S. And let's make the background color our dark blue. And then what color do we want the blade of our skate to be? This is pretty white. Let's try this metal color. So it just makes it look a little silver. Okay, and now our skate is done. So you can see so much detail when you're looking at the skate. The texture of all the fabric, right? You got that leather texture. You can see the stitches. You can see the texture of the laces, right? The metal eyelets. It's kind of probably a suede type material. You got plastic back here. You know, the shadows and highlights and reflections kind of all over this thing. Almost got the kind of carbon fiber look here on the toe. So this looks very much like a real skate, right? And if you go to the effects and you turn that off, you can see it's really just, this is still has separate effects, but everything else is just flat shapes and colors. So it's pretty amazing. All right, so let's look at, we're just down to our helmets. So let's minimize that. Go to the side view helmet first, just because I want to be different. And you can change the visor if you want to, right? There's a visor there, and maybe we want to give it a color, give it a red, red tint. I think I'll just kind of keep it whitish. Side of the helmet, let's look at what we can edit. So we've got kind of this strap that's holding it on. We'll just make that white. The screws, we'll make the metal color. Zoom in on all this so you can really see what's going on. Okay. We've got the inner part of the helmet, right? So I'll make it a different color so you can kind of see it, right? It's kind of red there. We'll make that white. It's kind of like the inner padding of the helmet. The bottom sort of straps that hold this on. See what color they are in our reference image. White. So we'll make them white. And then these other straps that are sort of holding things together, we'll make those the metal color. Okay, so that's looking pretty good. So let's look at our helmet design. If we look at our reference image, well, let's make the color our blue as well. Our reference image just has the same USA logo on it, so let's put that on. And then let's just figure out where we're going to place it, right? So shrink it down, and I mean, if you want to, you can always kind of start in the middle. I know that's not going to be where I want it for this one since I've already done this, so let's see where that is. So it's a little big and a little too far back, right? So let's just grab this corner, hold shift, kind of bring it in that way. That's pretty good compared to our reference. Pretty good. Maybe just move it in a little bit. We'll just nudge it in, bring it down, and I think it's maybe just a tiny bit smaller. So I think that's going to be really close to where we want to be. Yeah, that's pretty close. So I'm happy with that. So zoom out. We've got our, let's go and do our top view helmet. There's really not a lot to be done with this one. We're just seeing the top view. So if you had like a stripe on it or something like that, you could do that. But we really don't have any of that. We just have a blue helmet, right? If we look at our reference image, that's really all we have. If we wanted to, maybe add something else, we could. But I like the simplicity of this. If you look at the typical hockey helmets, they're usually pretty plain, pretty simple. But you could add anything you want on this helmet if you wanted to. Let's zoom in and get a look at that. So just Control Command S on your keyboard to zoom in, and look at the detail on that thing. Sometimes when you're zooming in, Photoshop will do that. It'll sort of show you a different preview. But look at all the texture on that. It's sparkly. Looks like a hard plastic shell, like it really is. Same thing on this one. I mean, the screws look very real. The visor's there. You can change the colors on. The shadows. It's just awesome. Okay, so let's go to the gloves, and these are pretty intense. You can change every little part of these, and so let's look at how we go about that. If you go into the gloves layers, go into the editable parts, we can turn off the design for now. You can change all the colors of every part of these, right? So right glove, thumb color, we'll just say red, right? There's so many colors. Let me zoom out just a little bit. The fingers, what color do we want to make the fingers? Let's make those red too. The wrist, we'll make this blue, so that's where we're going to place our USA logo in a minute. So this is the inner hand of the left glove. Do that. This is the frame of the left hand. Just set that to white. I think it was already white. The wrist will do blue again. And then this is sort of everything that's on the top of the glove. Let's make this white. Okay, the middle section, just go for blue. Actually, let's make that red. And the bottom part of the glove, let's see, let's call that. So I don't think I got anywhere close to our reference image because there's so many different parts to do. Let's see. Oh, it's the other one's so much more blue with just red fingers and the red palm. So let's change that back. Okay, that looks a lot more like what we had on the reference image. Pretty close. Just this part needs to turn white. Okay, and then let's get the design on. We're just going to put the USA logo across here. Now, sizing and placement, we got to just kind of play with it and see where we want to put it, right? Let's just start in the middle down there. See what happens. Control S. Okay, so that's too high up, maybe a little too big. Needs to move down and to the right a little bit, and maybe even rotate it a little bit. So let's go down to the right. Let's shrink it a little more. Let's rotate it a little bit. Control Command S. Oh wow, well, I'm very happy with that. Compare it to our reference. Oh, the reference is maybe up a little higher. Turned a little more. And also I didn't put the red outline on the reference, but that's okay. I'm actually pretty happy with this. I'll rotate it back a little bit. Maybe it was a little bit bigger. Okay, that looks pretty good. I might nudge it down just a little. That's great. Now we zoom in. Look at the texture on that thing. Again, kind of that nylon, almost vinyl, woven fabric. I think if you're looking at it, you know what I'm talking about and kind of what that looks and feels like. And you can even see a little faint embossed manufacturer logo is there on the glove. If we turn off the design, you can probably see it a little bit better. Kind of see the end of the R there for Bauer. So that's really cool. So now we need to finalize everything else, right? Some other things you can do within this template in regards to the background, right? There's a background here. There's a text layer, right? It says hockey uniforms, pretty faint right now. If we change the color, you can see. And the font changed because I don't have that font installed on the computer, but you can always change the font if you want to, right? Let's change it to something I know is close, right? Do the Futura extra bold oblique, right? That's pretty close to what it was. So you could do something like that if you want to have something in the back, right? You could change the text to whatever you want it to be. Let's turn the text off. You can change the background color. So let's see how this looks against a blue background or a red background. Oh, I deselected, sorry. Red background there. Not a fan of black backgrounds too much, but white background I think is good. The other thing that's built into this template, which I like for this look, and you saw it in the reference image, we've got an ice background here. Okay, so a great way to kind of give it that authentic hockey look. It's got some scratched ice from all the skates, skating around on it. You can see the scratches all over it, so that's really cool. If you wanted to, another thing you can do within this template is move things around, right? So maybe you only want to show the front of the jersey and kind of this front view. You can turn off the back, you can turn off the socks, you can turn off the gloves, the skate, the top view helmet, whatever you want to do. And then you could take these and you can move them, right? So maybe you want to just put them kind of right in the center, wherever you think looks good. You could do that. Okay. Now I don't want to do that, but you could. You could also, maybe just take the helmet and move it around. Maybe you want to do two side view helmets. You could duplicate it and flip it, right? And do a completely different view. So this thing is really customizable. You can move these things around and reposition and change your layout however you want to fit your needs. And the other thing you can do, which is always really cool, and I think maybe a good a good place to do that is over here on the front of the jersey. The dynamic lighting on these is insane. So you can go into the jersey and you can turn on dynamic lighting. And what that does is it allows you to change the light source and sort of the intensity of the light on it. So if you want to put it into a different setting and maybe the light would be a little bit different. So if you go into the dynamic lighting, there's a few different tools you can use in here to help do that. So if you go to the hue saturation layer, go to properties, you can really just start moving the sliders around, and that's going to help you bring in light from different areas, right? And you can really just play with all of this and see, you know, how it changes to suit whatever look you're trying to go for, right? So maybe you wanted to bring in some light kind of from this right side, you could do that. And then if you go to the channel mixer, you can play with the different values and just make things look however you might want to. So maybe you just want to add, you know, a little bit of light from the right side, right? You can do all that. Controller Command S to save. And then you can see now we've got a pretty intense light coming in from the right. If we turn it off, you see it goes back to how it was. So this is great for putting your design elements into different scenes, customizing lighting. Maybe you're trying to match the lighting of a certain scene or something like that. It's just really a great way to do it. So that is really a detailed walkthrough of this new lay flat hockey uniform template available from Sports Templates. Make sure you go over to Sports Templates and check that out. Pick it up and subscribe to the YouTube channel as well. We'll be doing more tutorials like this going forward. Thank you guys for watching, and enjoy your day.